What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel, where today we have my tour of the updated Ultimate PlayStation room tour setup thing, or whatever the title is. The title might be slightly misleading. It's not an entire room. We have an open plan house, so mine is kind of just the living room section of that house. And yeah, so it's not like a big room tour, not yet at least. Hopefully one day you guys can help me get to the stage where I have an awesome room filled with all my PlayStation goodies. But for the time being, what we do have here is still pretty amazing, and I am so thankful to have it. I love having it. It is a place that I love to just sit and can't wait to get to every evening, or sometimes during the day when I have off days. I love just spending my time here playing all my systems. Whichever system I want to play, I can play now. And a big part of that is just the thanks to you guys. I think having the motivation to do some of these things is purely for the channel, and I love creating content on PlayStation systems and stuff like that. So I have to say thank you to you guys, as well as probably a little bit of a thanks to myself and my family and everyone that has helped me get to the stage where I am. I mean, my girlfriend has bought me quite a few of the things that are on display here, and I am so thankful to her. A lot of the stuff I've bought just from working and saving up and making sure that I can distribute the money accordingly. Obviously, you can't just purchase everything you want, otherwise I would have everything I want already, but that's not the way that life works. What we do have, though, is an awesome place to sit and just chill. So without further ado, I just want to run you through some of the things that I wanted to achieve with this setup. So a big goal for me is I wanted every PlayStation system, like every mainline system and kind of every niche system as well, running off of the same TV, and at the touch of a button, or maybe max 2 buttons, I can then play whichever system I want to play. So for example, I have every mainline system at the moment. So I have PS1 right through to PS5. Now, I'm not going to go through console iterations and stuff, but there are two other little systems that I am missing. And that is the PS Vita TV and the PlayStation Classic. Now, I know by all means they are kind of not the most appealing and most important systems, because you kind of can play everything that they can do on other systems. And I mean, the PS Vita is probably a better way to play your PS Vita games, because some of them are requiring the back touchpad, the gyro, and all of those things. But I digress. They are still two systems that I would love to have in my collection, and maybe one day we will get there. Other than that, I have everything running pretty much to the right degree that I want. I'll mention now, coming up in the tour, basically, that I have 3 systems running at a time at the moment. I haven't got to running the PS4 and the PS1. The PS4 is just plain silly. I miscalculated how many power outlets I needed, so I kind of just ran short of power outlets and didn't have a power cable to hook up the PS4. So that's kind of just on me. But obviously the PS5 can play PS4 games, the PS3 can play PS3 and PS1 games, and then I have the PS2 to play PS2 games. So any game that I really want to play, I can play on this system, give or take. Obviously there are some titles that really just don't work on backwards compatibility and stuff, but I don't actually have any of those titles, so I'm not too worried about them. Anyways, I am digressing very, very far. The last thing I just want to touch on is the fact that maybe I should touch on it just a bit later. Let's touch on it later. Let's hop straight into the first initial stages of the tour, which is the TV system setup behind me, and then we'll move on after that to the shelf. So I guess it's important to start with kind of this big overview and then just move down. Obviously, we've spoken about the TV over recent weeks a good couple times, so I'm not going to mention it too much again. This is the Hisense E7N Pro 55-inch, and 55 inches is almost too big for this space. So let's go down to actually what I consider the main attraction, and that is over here. And before we start on the top layer, I think we need to go one layer down and mention that the PS1 is there, the PS2 is here, and then over here I have a layer of PS3 games that I actually want to change to all steel cases. I just need to get a little magnetic strip to put behind here, so on this section, in order to allow them to stay there more permanently, I suppose. Not permanently, just a little bit more adhesively. So, and as you can see, there's a Luna here. I'm pretty sure I've apologized for that already, so I'm not going to do that again. There's going to be lots of that here, even though I've cleaned literally directly before this shooting. But anyways, back to the steel cases. I want to put all the steel cases there that I have. At the moment, I kind of just have that out, and the others have gone back into their respective collective editions. This white cable is for my Wi-Fi that goes all the way up there. I will sort things like that out, but that's secondary to what is going on up here. So as we've said, we have the PS1, the PS2, then the PS3, the PS4, and the PS5. So if we come down here, here's the PS3, 4, 5, and in between each of them we have the DualShock 4 charger and the DualSense charger, which I think is really cool. I didn't like the fact that in order to make that work, I had to hang the PS3 off the side and the PS5 off the side a bit. But other than that, I do really like how this has turned out. The only problem is when I get the DualShock 3 charger, it's going to look a bit odd, and yeah, but that's beside the point. My only other complaint is I really don't like how these cable things stick up out of the wall, but too high compared to my TV cabinet, so those are quite visible. So what I'm thinking of doing is creating a little shelf that goes just over the back of the PS4, then the controller chargers can go on there, and I can push the two systems closer in so they won't be hanging off. So that's kind of that overview, and yeah, I like how this is. The cupboard there, I'm not going to show too much in there. Actually, I'm just not going to show it in there at all. It's pretty much a disaster zone. It's just got cables and other things like the Move controllers and stuff like that. But for the initial run through, that is what the main setups looks like. What I can show you is that I have 3 systems running at this moment. So the PS3, the PS5, and the PS2. So I can play any PlayStation game ever released. So if we go to PS3, there's PS3. If we go to PS2, there's PS2. But yeah, so I can run pretty much all the PlayStations. The PS2 AV cable system, I do not enjoy. It's very finicky, and I can't touch anything at the back of the TV now to get that to work, which really is an annoyance. If I can show you that, I'm just gonna have to mind the cable management. This little yellow cable here is the AV cable, and it's very finicky the way that the modern systems use the AV cable. So I'm thinking of trying to figure out a much better solution that runs off HDMI, so that the PS2 and PS1 run better. I have the PS4 hooked up via HDMI over here, but it doesn't have power. I kind of miscalculated how many power cables I needed and how many outlets I needed, but that's something we can soon sort out. For the time being, I can play pretty much any PlayStation game that I want to play, so I'm not too concerned about having the PS4 and the PS1 hooked up to AV, but it is something that I will eventually do. Okay, now before we move on to the next section, which is the shelf, I just want to run through all my goals and stuff and what I want to do after this and where I want to lead the TV cabinet to in the coming months and stuff like that. So we'll be right back for the shelf tour after this little interruption of me talking. So that's the TV stand covered, and I just want to run through a few of the things that I still want to do and achieve with the TV stand. Obviously, I have pretty much all the systems. I mentioned earlier in the intro that I was missing the PS TV and the PlayStation Classic. Those are 2 things that I definitely want to bring in and put into the system, into the, what would you call it? The ecosystem, if you want to call it that, of the PlayStation ecosystem behind me. I think that would kind of just round out everything. The other 2 things that are I'm mixed. I have mixed feelings about. I still want to really get into the VR space when it comes to PlayStation VR and VR2, but as you can see, we have limited space, and VR is relatively expensive, especially PSVR 2. So it's a bit of a tough sell when you have very few titles that you would probably use on it. So although it is something that I desperately do want to try get into, it's kind of that barrier of entry. Maybe one day, as a reward for hitting like 5,000 subscribers or something, we can maybe do something like that and purchase a PSVR 2. But for the time being, I'm quite happy with everything that is here. The only other goals that I have is, like I mentioned, I want to build that shelf over the PS4, and then perhaps a clear out that cupboard that I would not show you guys and make it a little bit more functional, because at the moment it's kind of just a mess. Everything's just lying in there. I'd love to have all the different accessories in there. So like the SingStar marks, the Move controllers, things like that. Also, I'd like the Move controller charger, and that could also be just on top of the PlayStation 4 and like a charging den. But those are things that we can always get to. Other goals that I have is I do want the DualShock 3 controller charger. That is something that is very much on my list, but they are quite tricky to find in South Africa. And because they have those little dongles, you have to just make sure that both of them have they have both dongles included in whatever deal you're purchasing. So those are like other little things that I want to sort out and try get for this PlayStation, the main TV setup. But for the time being, I mean, everything here is incredible. I love playing my games here. I can come sit here for hours on end and not get bored. I mean, I can change between any generation of PlayStation and just have an absolute ball of a time. So let me know if there are any improvements that you think I should have for the actual TV setup. I did mention that I don't like how the outlet is, but I'm hoping the shelf covers that up when I do eventually get to doing that. Anyways, let's hop into the final section of the video, well, the final part of the tour section of the video, so the shelf, and we'll hop over into that right now. Okay, so I hope you all understood what I was trying to say and where I still want to improve and the things that I still want to get for the little TV cabinet stand-up setup, and yeah, we'll get there eventually. So running over here, we have my top shelf. I have my silver PS2. It still works, it just looks better on display, and I prefer using my original one, my 25th anniversary Gran Turismo Steelbook. As I said, I still want to put my Steelbooks up in a different-ish place, so that's something that we will sort out eventually. I can see my silver PS2 is very, I wouldn't say grimy, just a bit reflective. Then we have the Lego Horizon tall neck, which is incredibly dusty. Not much I can do about that, unfortunately, at the moment. The dust kind of just comes from a corner over there. Don't really know if I want to show you there. So maybe a glass case for it would be a little bit better. But anyways, I digress. Anyone else really excited for Lego Horizon Adventures? I can't wait for it to come out. It's coming out in like 2 weeks, and that is the one game aside from Astrobot that I've been really excited for this year. Anyways, moving on down, as you can see, we have a Gran Turismo Hot Wheel. I would love to get all the Gran Turismo Hot Wheels and have them on display. I've only managed to find one, but that is fantastic. Anyways, we'll get to the controller shelf now. The PS1 games live here for the time being. I only have those PS1 games, so these 6. And yeah, they kind of just found a place to stay here. It's the only place I could really fit them where they didn't look incredibly terrible. My Icon lights, and then my PS5 to PS4 games. Yeah, that's where those are. Then I have my Vita PSP that works, PSP that doesn't work, and yeah, we don't have to talk about that. One level down, we have the PS Vita games along with my boxes. So I have my Dark Souls collection slipcover, the Lego Star Wars Deluxe Edition, the Force Awakens Deluxe Edition, Horizon. I did get the PS4 version of Horizon Zero Dawn because I actually didn't have my PS5 when I pre-ordered, and then once I had pre-ordered, I actually got my PS5, but they had a free upgrade, so I wasn't too concerned with that. They pretty much have the exact same stuff in the boxes, and this way I have 2 versions of Lego Horizon, or for Horizon Forbidden West, so I can actually go get a second platinum, which I probably will do eventually. Then I have The Last of Us Part 2, incredibly controversial, probably one of my favorite pieces here, the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Blood and Wine expansion pack. This comes with 2 sets of Gwen cards. Maybe I'll pop up a picture if I can find one. I love this box set, it looks incredible. Then I have Lara Croft Tomb Raider Anniversary. This is a PS2 sort of collector's edition. The inside of it looks really cool. I'll maybe try to pop up a little video of that quickly if I remember, otherwise I am sorry. Go check out my Instagram, it will be on my Instagram. Then I have my 3 special edition controllers, so Astrobot, Spider-Man and God of War. Then my 2 Persona mangas, which I still need to finish and try find volume 3, which is proving to be a little bit of a problem. Even though there's like 13 volumes, I still only have volume 1 and 2, but they are quite pricey, so maybe just 1 or 2 at a time. Moving another layer down, we have my PS2 games, but not all of my PS2 games. This is basically just all the PS2 games that are in the that aren't the platinum versions or stuff like that. As you can see, this one is very damaged, and that's really sad because it's one of my favorite games, Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. I would love to somehow figure out how to clear that off, but I haven't quite figured that out just yet. Then we have the PS2 media remote. Nothing too special, it's just there because I don't have a use for it at the moment and I want to put it on display. Then if we go to the last layer, is my PSP games and my 2 lonely PS3 games that aren't displayed with the God of War ones on the other section. And then I have 2 more boxes, my PS Vita and my Platinum wireless headset. So with that out of the way, probably the most interesting thing out of all of this is obviously my controller thing, my controller holder wall, whatever you want to call it. It's just a normal IKEA Scadus pegboard that I picked up while I was over in Germany. I had been wanting one forever. Obviously, when we see them on all the other YouTubers' channels, you're kind of like, those are so cool, I really want those. And I'm kind of glad that this wood matches this wood relatively well. I was going to put a white one there or spray paint this one, but I'm kind of happy with how it looks at the moment. It does overhang a bit, so over here you can see it overhangs quite a decent amount, but it's not enough to like distract me, and the functionality of it is quite a lot more important than how it looks with that little thing. So I have all my controllers here, so my special edition controllers up top, God of War, Astro, Spider-Man, but I am debating putting them back in their boxes and trying to find an acrylic display for them that is covered so that they don't get dusty. I don't use them very often, if at all. My original PS5 controller is over there as well. Then we have PS3, PS2 and PS1. Now this PS1 controller is quite unique. It is a PS1 controller. I'll try to shoot an overlay shot. I can't get it out too easily, but it is a very unique controller that is somewhat rare, and I kind of just bought it as a whim in a bundle of PS2 games and a PS2, but I'm so happy I kept it. It's quite a unique piece of PlayStation history, so I just wanted to make sure I kept it and put it on display there. Now on top of that, I don't think I mentioned the Killzone aim gun, but we don't have to mention it, it needs to move. On top of that, I just want to run through a couple things quickly face to face, so I will catch you when I'm doing my face-to-face run through and what my goals are for the shelves. And obviously we've run out of space, so I want to discuss how I plan on alleviating the clutter and then things like that. So I'll check you in that part right now. So with the shelf tour done, you guys can see that we are desperately running out of space and there is some need for a little bit of improvement and expansion. And I do have a few things in mind. This whole book is basically dedicated to all things drawing and kind of planning for the future and things like that, and designing my ideal gaming space. I have this little sketch here, which is kind of what we have at the moment, with the shelf on the left hand side, TV in the middle, and then this shelf is actually what I want to discuss now. It is a shelf that I have designed myself, that I would love to have this side. I just need to find fabricators to make it for me. It is a really cool shelf. The concept is what I think is really awesome. It's basically the ultimate shelf for my specific type of collecting needs. Because I want only 100 games per system, this will fit that perfectly. So PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, maybe not, and PS5, maybe not PS1 games because of the dual cases, something that I didn't actually consider when I was designing the shelf, but I digress. It'll work well enough. Maybe it'll be 98 PlayStation 1 games and then 2 will be on display somewhere else. It does not matter. I will figure that out at a different stage. But for the most part, your PS1 games, your PS2 games, your PS3, PS4, and PS5, each will fit 100 in a row next to each other, which I think would be really awesome. And the idea is, because it's a collection that's growing over time, because we're not purchasing everything at once, you can still have things on display in between the games or on the edges of the games, so that it's not like overly you're not wasting space just because you don't have the games. So then a lot of the things from the collection here can go onto that shelf just to have a little bit of a place to display, and then when a collection grows and fills out, it then moves back onto a different shelf, or maybe by that time we have a third shelf, so a second shelf here. And I think that would be really, really cool. There are so many things that I still want to put on display here that I already have. I have a whole black box full of PlayStation goodness. I have multi-taps for the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1. Obviously, I mentioned the Move controllers, the Killzone gun I would like to have on a better display. I would love to have the special edition boxes on a shelf by themselves. So there's so many things that I'd still like to do, and obviously with just having the games here, it kind of takes up a lot of that space. So I do need to find a way to move the games off of this shelf and onto the shelf that I want on this side. I think that would be a really awesome, not only a video idea, but obviously a awesome setup. It's something that I've been dreaming of for a very long time. I have the sketch and the measurements and everything jotted down in my, I don't want to call it a journal, but we could call it like a PlayStation journal. It literally has everything that I have for PlayStation set up down in there, and that is separate from this little booklet. How cool is this? My girlfriend did the design on this. This book is basically just my book for videos and my video ideas and my points, my talking points that you have seen me go through quite a couple times on maybe Top 5 Tuesdays and things like that. But I am digressing. Let me know what you guys would upgrade and what else you think I should be adding into the setup. There is an L-shaped couch behind you that I haven't shown you guys. It's the perfect couch for me. I even have an indent in my spot, which is amazing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the setup, and I will check you guys next week in next week Friday's video. Cheers.